And Chelsea and I are very candid in terms of the conversations we have as parents. And we've talked through and asked each other, what our beliefs are or our thoughts are on everything from access to electronics to bedtimes to, diet and nutrition and what should these kids be eating. And it's just about putting those things on the table. And then even in the event that somebody is coming from a different side or a different viewpoint, it's listening to them and working through it. And the word compromise is one that we really encourage people to use, because if you're in disagreement with your spouse, you're fighting with them to lose and you to win. Mm-hmm. And that's not healthy.
I'm Summer.
And I'm Mike.
And we got married with children.
It's been 12 years since we got this gang together.
And we're still running the rapids of living with a blended family.
And sometimes that is just not easy.
If you're looking for support and tools when it comes to divorce, step-parenting, co-parenting, and giving it your best,
you're in the right place.
We're talking about everything.
You ready to get this party started?
Always. Hello, listeners. Today, I am speaking with an amazing couple. It's Garret and Chelsea Zimmerman, and they are known as Transformed Couples. And they are certified relationship coaches who serve blended families and couples who are going through this whole blended family. And what they say is that they transform families from blended to blessed. And I absolutely love that. I think it's just so cool. They have 3 boys together. I'm going to let them share their story when we start the interview. But we're talking about the 3 most common challenges. Actually, there's 5, but we cover 3 of them, and we're going to cover 2 more on a future episode. So you're going to hear what those 2 are, and you're going to be like, I want more, but you're going to love what we talk about today. So much good stuff. We're really talking about blended families and the stigma that blended families face with feeling like you're a failure because something didn't work out the first time. And we're also talking about the challenges in terms of finances, challenges when it comes to co-parenting and high conflict co-parenting. I know you guys ask about that a lot. We're covering more on that. And we're also going to talk about the ways that they discipline in their family when kids require a different way of disciplining. So much good advice and tips and insights and just all kinds of good stuff. I'm really excited for you to hear, and make sure you listen to the end because they have a handful of free stuff for you. So listen to the end and you'll find out how you can get access to all of that. That can really, really, really help you wherever you're at in your blended family and with your relationship. All right, guys, enjoy. Chelsea and Garret, welcome to the show. We're going to have so much fun today, and I'm just so grateful you're here.
We are so delighted to be here, Summer. Thanks so much for having us.
Well, it's always exciting for me to talk to another blended family couple because there's just that instant, you get it. You totally get it. Mm-hmm. And I love that feeling. I love watching you guys on your lives, and you offer such valuable information to your audience. And so I'm so excited to get to share you with our audience today. Before we get into all of the great things that you are going to share, let's talk about your background and, how you guys came together, how long you've been married, how many kids, all of the juicy details.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's lots of fun when it comes to our story. We've been together for 7 years and married for a little over 1. And we have 3 boys between us. So we have a full house in terms of testosterone.
Yeah.
Chelsea feels outnumbered a lot of the time.
I do.
But we definitely have learned to make it, I don't know if I want to say make it work, but to acknowledge all of the differences amongst everyone and the reality of our blended family and what some of the tools and strategies are that we need to be mindful of so that we can, as we put it, move from blended to blessed. So that's a little bit about us. We met on a bus, ironically enough, we were at the time, Chelsea and I both worked for the same company,
Oh,
and
wow.
we were headed to a years of service award recognition event. And both Chelsea and I were celebrating 5 years at the same employer. So super excited. And the venue was about an hour and a half away from where we live. So we had some time to kill on the bus. And when I made my way onto the bus, I told myself I wanted to sit across from the prettiest lady I could see on the bus, and it was Chelsea. So I sat down, and all of a sudden we were engaged in conversation the whole way there, the whole way back. And to your point, Summer, we just felt an instant connection because we shared our challenges and our stories of single parenting, life with boys, and kind of what our dreams and goals were and places we wanted to travel and things we wanted to do with our lives. So it's like an instant connection, and we've just grown it and built it over the past 7 years.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And so you guys are your certified relationship coaches. And at what point was this something you had thought about doing before you met, or was it into the relationship and the marriage that you realized this is something you wanted to do?
Yeah. So actually, Garrett was kind of the trailblazer for this one. We definitely felt as though we had something really special to offer people because we, as a blended family, and, we felt that we had a lot of experiences that people could relate to. And we overcame a lot together that people go through in a blended family. And being that Garrett was previously divorced, he really felt called to, share his story, share his mess, make it his message, really just help couples in blended families to have tools and strategies and support and community. And that's kind of what led him to looking into the relationship coaching piece of it. And so once we found Empowered Couples University, I was immediately drawn to our coaches, the teachers, the community that we had there. So I was like all in. I wanted us to be able to do this together as a couple. And honestly, it was just the most amazing experience going through that journey together. And then also being able to, have the evolution happen together for Garrett and I both as a couple. And really just, our hearts are for blended families. And we just really, we love helping them out.
I know you guys have this commitment to this movement of removing the stigma that blended families have. And I see this with couples that are just newly blending and feeling like, even though they're excited, they love their family, they love their spouse, there's almost this initial reaction when somebody says, "Oh, are these your kids?" As if, did they come from both of you? And then they say, "Oh, well, we're blended." They kind of stumble. And there's kind of like this feeling that they have like, I failed at this once before, and here I am going at it again. And it crushes me. And I know I've felt that feeling myself, but what are you guys doing? How do you like talk to people that are going through that?
I would definitely say that blended is the new normal. And I just, based on the statistics, based on, traditional families, the traditional families are a lot less common these days than blended families. Blended families are a lot more common now. So I think for us, it's like, it's all about removing that stigma and realizing that what's normal for you is normal for you. And that's your normal. And it's accepting your normal. It's accepting the fact that your family is going to look exactly the way that you want it to look and the way that it is. And it's not a matter of looking over at, we'll call them the traditional families where, the kids belong to the parents and parents are together. And it's just like we call them like also a first family kind of thing where, it's accepting that that's your normal and really just embracing it and making it everything that it can possibly be. I don't know if you want to add anything, Garrett, but.
Yeah, I think to your point around that idea or concept of failure, I think, sometimes even as adults, we see a a failed marriage as like an X on our resume. And speaking from my experience, I know that I went through that for a reason to become the person I am today. And had it not been for that failure, I wouldn't be able to grow and move forward in this current blended family dynamic. So, what we really stress when we talk to blended families is that, like Chelsea said, you're not a failure. In fact, you're growing. And a lot of people admit to and say, yeah, I'm a different person now than I was in my first marriage. And I've acknowledged the need to, you know, be in acceptance of a partner who might think differently, act differently, have different beliefs or stories around different concepts of relationship. But it's not about trying to change someone. It's more about growing together and working on whatever it is the challenge is for that day or that time. So using it as opportunities and just shifting the mindset and the perspective is really how we've tackled it and what we've really communicated with the people we work with.
When you're working with your clients, what do you is there a common challenge that you see, or is there a big variety? What kinds of things are you seeing? Because I'd love to talk about, some of the things that our listeners can gain from, and some advice that you have with those typical challenges.
Absolutely. So, I mean, there's some common threads in terms of challenges. I mean, blended families, as you know, and as the listeners know, they're very complex, and there's so many moving parts, whether or not it's, an ex who's not in the picture, or an ex who's overly involved and in the picture too much, and the conflict that creates. Finances is a real common area that we find people are challenged with. I mean, when you've got child support and alimony, or, one person comes into the relationship with 2 kids and the other person has 1, or there's an imbalance of numbers. Sometimes that can be a real sticking point. And then, obviously the big word, discipline, and how do you co-parent? Our post today was about co-parenting. And it is, I mean, it's challenging. You've come from different backgrounds, and the kids have come from different backgrounds in terms of what life looked like prior to the blended family. So I would say the 3 big challenges that we hear are conflict resolution, finances, and then how to manage that co-parenting / discipline relationship with your partner, but also with your bio kids and your step kids.
Yes. And let's talk about those 3. And I know, we talk about co-parenting a lot because our audience asks for that. And so when they're writing in for certain topics that they want us to discuss, it's usually, I'm really struggling with co-parenting with my ex, and it's also affecting my relationship with my spouse. And that seems to be, because there's so many different opinions. There's a step parent that is thinking it should be one way. And then there's the bio parent who thinks it should be a different way. And then there's the other bio co-parent that's like, I don't like how either of you are doing it, So there's a lot of conflict there.
Absolutely, there is. And what we've really been working on, because admittedly, it's always a work in progress. I mean, we don't want to sit here and pretend that it's all perfect. So it's a daily choice to, act in the best interests of the family. And Chelsea and I are very candid in terms of the conversations we have as parents. And we've talked through and asked each other, what our beliefs are or our thoughts are on everything from access to electronics to bedtimes to, diet and nutrition, and what should these kids be eating. And it's just about putting those things on the table. And then even in the event that somebody is coming from a different side or a different viewpoint, it's listening to them and working through it. And the word compromise is one that we really encourage people to use, because if you're in disagreement with your spouse, you're fighting with them to lose and you to win. And that's not healthy. So it's, how can we compromise and work together and come to an agreement? We use the term agreement a lot, whereby both parties might be having to sacrifice something. But what we always tell people is to make decisions in the best interest of your kids. And sometimes that means putting aside your personal feelings. And we encourage people to talk to their kids and ask their kids how they feel, depending on the age of the children. Those dynamics, giving the kids an opportunity to speak and contribute really makes them feel empowered as though they're part of the process versus being told what to do or how to do it. They actually become more engaged, more involved, and then they're less likely to feel defensive or as though they're being attacked by a bio parent or a step parent. So that's what we would encourage people to do, is understand compromise and also engage your children depending on the age of the kids.
Yeah, I love that. I love giving them a voice, because after all, it is their family, it is their life.
Mm-hmm.
And I really love, the compromise, and realizing that compromise means you are going to sacrifice something. So it might not be exactly the way that you want it to be, but if you can come together, you're winning for your child if you can do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think the other big part of it too is the fact that you have to acknowledge that the only thing that you can control is what happens under your roof. Mm-hmm. And Garret and I are both in very different situations with our exes when it comes to the co-parenting with the other bio parent. Myself, personally, I'm in a high conflict, unfortunately. So the relationship looks a lot different than, the co-parenting relationship that Garret has with his ex-wife when it comes to how they parent their son. And so one of the biggest things for us is that we had to accept the fact, and we had to understand that, we can't control what happens when our little guy goes to his mom's. We can't, but at the end of the day, we can control what happens here. And right. We need to stand as a united front together on the same page and really just, like Garret said, have those candid conversations, be in communication, constant communication with each other. We have family meetings every week, and we check in with our, with our kids, with each other. It's just a really good practice to put into place, just to really, like Garret said, have the kids be part of it. And yeah, just to all be kind of connected on that level.
Yeah. How old are the boys, by the way?
So our youngest is 11, and then we've got 12 and 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're just above you. We do have a 13. Our 13 is our youngest. So
okay.
You're entering the teen years.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us what we have to look forward to.
Oh my gosh. Nothing. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's actually, it's so much, there's so much fun, but then there's a whole new set of challenges. It's just like, even when they're babies, right? It's like they're newborn, and then all of a sudden they're crawling, and then all of a sudden there's all these things that you're just always worrying about. And it's really just because you care that you're doing it the right way. That's just the natural part of being a parent. Like when they're babies, I want to make sure they're eating enough. I want to make sure they're developing. And it's kind of the same with teenagers. You're like, okay, wait a minute. I know I'm going to expect some moodiness sometimes. I know I'm going to expect some, trying to be independent now. And so it's challenging. I think it's more challenging for us as parents than it is what they're going through. I mean, I know it's hard to go through teenage stuff and all the hormones and everything, but it's just us like going, what do we do? But at the same time, it's these amazing conversations. It's it's watching, how they're seeing the world and how they are developing and thinking about things and thinking about their future. That part is so fun and actually really impressive. Those are the moments when you're like, I'm so proud. I'm so proud you're my kid.
Totally.
No, it's awesome. But okay, I want to kind of go back to, because you had said, and I don't know how much you can share, but just the idea of the two different relationships with your different co-parents. So one is high conflict and one might not be as high conflict. How does that impact a relationship, and maybe not specifically yours, or maybe what you have learned from, your relationship, because I know that can be that can be really stressful for people when
Mhm.
your partner is going through high conflict, because you want to fix it, you want to make it better, and at the same time there's like certain things you can and can't do.
hmm Yeah, it's definitely been actually one of our biggest learning curves as a couple together to navigate this, because it is something that is challenging. It's super challenging, and I'll speak from my point of view when it comes to Garrett's relationship with his ex-wife, because for myself, being in a high conflict, I definitely carried a lot of guilt into that. And I part of the reason is like, I'm making an effort and I'm trying to work on things and have a better relationship with my ex. And, I'm at that place, but unfortunately, the reality is my ex deals with some pretty significant mental health issues, and he's just been on the decline for a few years now. So it's virtually impossible to have a healthy co-parenting relationship with him. So, but for myself, I really had to almost get out of that comparison mode, and just realize that, again, every situation is completely different, and not carry the guilt of that with me, and just really kind of accept it for what it is. And I'm so grateful because Garrett's been so accepting of the situation. He has been such a support for me through my struggles and challenges that I've faced with this. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's actually inspired me on my side. Like Garrett's positive relationship that he has with his ex has inspired me to try to make things better on my side. Now, unfortunately, that hasn't been the case, but I can, rest easy at night going like, I did the best I could. And I'm putting my best foot forward, and that's all I can do. And I'll let Garrett speak to, the other side of that, but I definitely think that, when you are in a high conflict relationship, there's a lot, I don't know how to really say that, but there's a lot more challenges. And I think that for somebody in my position, it does contribute to feelings of guilt, feelings of shame, feelings of like not good enough, feelings of, oh, like this is such a burden, and I don't want to burden my partner with all of this garbage that's going on. But your partner does want to help you, and they do want to be part of that with you. It's not something that you have to carry on your own. It's not something that you have to navigate on your own. Your partner chose you, and your partner chose your kids, and kind of indirectly chose whatever mess you've got on the other side.
Right.
So, uh, yeah, I mean, I'll let you talk about the other side of it, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think when you're on the other side of that, and watching your partner struggle at times, be confused or overwhelmed at times, it's a real opportunity to just be supportive, to be encouraging, and just to be present. I think those are the biggest things that as a partner you need to remind yourself of. And I can honestly say, in one of the lines that we've shared and that we truly believe in, is when you're making decisions or having conversations with your ex, regardless of if it's high conflict or Pleasantville, you need to remember who you're making the decisions about and for, not who you're making them with. And I know that's really challenging for some people, because they do want to still bring up and carry those old feelings of hurt or pain or dislike for their ex, but all they're doing is indirectly hurting their kids.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, the kids didn't choose to be in the situation they're in. So as parents, you have to put aside your differences and kind of take the high ground, regardless of who your ex is or what they may have said to you. And sometimes just biting your tongue and not saying anything at all. I know that's been some advice I've given Chelsea at times, when emotions get high and you just want to automatically respond.
That's
And
always my
it's like,
advice. Don't
right? It's
respond.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, write the text message or write the email, but then sleep on it. Go
Yeah.
back to it tomorrow, because the emotions you feel immediately after a certain comment or statement is made might not and likely won't be the same when you take the emotion out of it, sit back, reflect, and then remind yourself of the importance of taking the high road. So those have been some of the ways we've navigated it, both, Chelsea and I on each side of the equation, because it is drastically different.
Yeah. And you said some really great things, both of you. And I'm such a fan too of not engaging. And I think as a partner of somebody who is going through that high conflict, you can be that support to say, hey, don't send it just yet. Or when you feel like you want to engage in that, let me help you not. If it means I have to take your phone away, let me do that. And the other thing too is that was so great to hear, Chelsea, is that feeling of, I've seen this happen so many times where people are feeling that guilt of, I'm so sorry, I brought this drama, as if it's their fault that there is this going on. And to remember, like you said, you chose each other and you chose all of these things, and you chose to support each other and your family and the kids through all of this. And sometimes, in these situations that we're talking about, it's blended families, it's exes, but even in the first family, as you called it, any of those situations, any relationship, things pop up, life just happens. And just because this was something, from the past and it's, poking out its head again or causing some drama, it doesn't mean that you can't get through it, and doesn't mean that, oh gosh, you're bringing too much drama, I'm out, and I just love that you said that, because I think so many people feel that guilt.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hey guys, guess what? We have a new website where you can see all of our podcasts and get easy access to the show notes, everything we talk about on the episodes, and you can even listen to the podcast directly from the site. You can contact us through the site and share your thoughts and questions. Check it out at www.everythingalways.co. That's www.everythingalways.co.
And you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at everythingalwaysco. We just set it up, and we'll be sure to put important announcements there.
And we love that this podcast has been so helpful to so many, and our hope is to share it with even more. So can you help us? Will you take a moment now or after the episode to subscribe to the podcast, write a review, and share it? It would mean the world to us, and it helps us to keep bringing you the best content.
Come on, we appreciate you guys. So what do you say, baby? Back to the episode?
Back to the episode. So the other one that you mentioned, which I totally agree is huge, is finances. That's a big one when it comes to blended families, for sure. It's actually a big thing just in, couples coming together in their first relationship, first marriage. It's a big thing, but especially with blended families, because there's pre-existing things, responsibilities, and now it's like, okay, how do we do this together? So I'd love to hear your tips and advice on that.
Absolutely. And it comes down to what we always start with when it comes to coaching couples through their finances, is asking them to have a conversation around each of their respective money stories. So your money story, what we believe, is what you think of money in terms of how is it best used? Is it for security and safety, or is it for freedom and fun? Because typically in a relationship, somebody's a saver and somebody's a spender, and that can cause friction because of how different those two positions are. So it's 3 S's. It's your story, then your state, and then a strategy. And what we mean by state is a lot of people get really anxious when they have to talk about money. And that can be a result of their story and how they grew up around money, and, how they saw their parents interact with each other when they talked about money. Was money even talked about in their home? Maybe divorce was, the main reason of divorce in their first marriage was because of money. So there's already a sensitivity to it. So what we do in terms of managing your state is schedule a weekly money call, like a money chat, where we sit down with each other Sunday night and we do a quick review on where we're at and how we're feeling. And we agree that outside of that time on Sunday night, we don't talk about money, because when you blindside your partner about anything, you're typically not going to get a very favorable response. And we've learned this from experience,
Right.
Especially money.
Yeah.
You know, the last thing Chelsea wants me to do is ask her about some of the expenses that showed up on the MasterCard while she's making supper on Tuesday night. Like, that's just not going to go over well.
Yep.
Right. Whereas if we both know that on Sunday night, sometime between 8 and 8:30, usually, we're going to talk about money, that's going to be able to help us in terms of our state and in terms of helping reduce that anxiety, or just knowing that it's coming. For the person that really wants to talk about it, they know, okay, I can park it. And I know on Sunday, we're talking about this. So that's really helpful. And then strategy is the third S. And the strategy is the plan that you as a couple make in terms of what you want your money to do for you. You know, we believe, and Chelsea's really teaching me this, is that money is just energy, and it flows, it comes, it goes. The fact that it's called currency means that it is in movement. You know, if we think about a current in a river, it's moving. So money moves, and it's supposed to. And we like to use the strategy, and this will resonate with blended families. But the two parents come into the relationship with past money stories, with realities of their current state. And what we like to do is encourage couples to talk about and put it all on the table, and then talk about what is your money, what is my money, and what is our money, so that yours, mine, and ours. And it's you know, we hear that with couples in terms of their kids, right? These are mine, those are yours. We're going to have an ours baby. So we use the same thing with money, and figure out what the costs are that you're both accountable to. You know, bills, utilities, food, insurance, mortgage, all those things. But then also allow each other to have your money, where you can go and spend it on whatever the heck you want, and you're not going to get questioned on it, because that's yours. And really, dividing up your budget and having an understanding of the cash flow that's coming and going, and then not holding that other person responsible to a certain percentage of the budget, because you don't want to be having to answer to your partner on everything.
Right.
And we've really found some peace in that approach, where, you know, Chelsea, you've got X amount for the month. It doesn't matter. You want to do your nails, you want to do your hair, you want to go buy some clothes, a new pair of shoes. Again, I can't do anything about it or say anything about it, because we've agreed to this. So that's been huge for us on the case of money.
I think that's so awesome. And I think it's great, because really, the way, like you said this earlier, our mindsets with money has a lot to do with how we were raised. You know, did you grow up in a family that was always consistently saying, I can't afford it, I can't afford it? Were you always saying, you know, where did this money go? Where did that money go? You know, like this kind of like a panic type of a feeling around it. Or like you said, you know, or was it a very controlled thing? You know, you're only allowed to do this, you're only allowed to do that. And it sounds, I love how you're not obsessing over it, but you're giving it the importance it deserves by, like you said, parking it and knowing that you're going to have a conversation about it, so that you're always taking care of it. You know, it is something to take care of, and you're on the same page, but you're also giving each other the freedom to not feel, you know, controlled over how you get to spend what. And I think that's such a great example for your boys to see. You know, it's just it's a really healthy way, because I think a lot of times couples have, you know, these differences, like you said, because of the conversations, or if they didn't have conversations about money at all. And so they're bringing those habits together, and then it's like so conflicting. And then the kids see that. So if you kind of think about like, okay, what kind of example, how are we going to treat this and take care of it, so that our kids can learn as well how to take care of it when they have it?
That's right. Yeah, it's huge. And I mean, I know for myself personally, I can speak from experience that, I mean, when I was growing up, my mom and dad, they never talked about money in front of us ever. And so admittedly, now that I'm an adult, and like when I was living on my own and doing those types of things, like I didn't realize obviously where that had stemmed from, but I had no idea what I was doing with my money. I had no clue. And it wasn't until I actually went back and kind of looked at my money story and where, where I grew up and what I had believed about money. And it was like, yeah, we just don't talk about that. And so for Garret and I, it was a growth area in our relationship that was brought to our attention when we first started getting into the coaching world, and it's been so amazing to get an understanding of my own money story and also Garret's money story, which is very different than mine. And so, really just having that understanding and knowing where each other is coming from and the way that they were taught and raised about money, it actually allows us, like you said, to come full circle with our kids and really show them the importance of talking about it, the importance of, making a budget and staying within a budget and, not having a mindset of lack. That's the one thing that we really have been working on lately in terms of like, I don't want my kids to grow up believing that, that money is scary or that it's, just the different beliefs that we can acquire as children. We want our kids to have that positive mindset of, what? No, I just can't afford it right now, but you know what? I'm going to save my money and we are going to get this thing, or whatever. So I love that, we can definitely turn around and impact our children with our money stories.
I love that. I love that so much. It's amazing, going through the process of blending families, you really start to look at your stories, whether it's your money story, love story, whatever those things are, and the things that you've had playing in your head, and you start to have a deeper understanding of yourself. And at the end, if you really understand that and, do the work to say, wait a minute, maybe that wasn't actually serving me, and shifting that, like, what a great example for our kids and, helping us to be better parents for our kids.
That's right. Yeah, it's huge.
Okay, remind me of that third very common challenge.
Yes, it's the combination of co-parenting and discipline.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, you can't have one without the other, and that's another area that comes up a lot in conversation with couples in blended families. Again, going back to the complexities of blended families and just the differences, and something we've done that's helped us is acknowledge those differences. Not to be judgy about it, acknowledge that it might be different from one side to the other, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. That just means that it's different, and different is okay. But as Chelsea mentioned earlier, understanding that under this roof and in the family that you are in, what's right for you is what's right for you. And it comes down to, again, having those conversations around, what you maybe believe based on background, previous experience, what you've read, what you've talked about with friends, those types of things. So acknowledging those differences and knowing that you're not always going to be on the same page necessarily, but listen to your partner and validate them.
Mm-hmm. And I think the one thing I would add to that as well is just the fact that in a blended family, we all come from different backgrounds. Like, for example, I've got 2 boys and both of my boys have ADHD. And so the way that I discipline my children versus the way that Garret would discipline his son are 2 very different things.
Yeah.
And so we've had to accept that, no different than, our family is no different than, the family that, the next blended family, or sorry, that is different than the blended family. And that's something that we've had to accept is each child within the family is going to have different needs, different wants, and we use different styles on each child. So to add to that as well, I take care of disciplining my children. Mm-hmm. Garret takes care of disciplining his son. And that's an agreement that we've made between the 2 of us that, it's not your job to discipline my kids. It's not my job to discipline your son. But at the end of the day, my kids have an understanding, and albeit it's difficult sometimes, but my children have, and Garrett's son as well, when either one of us are not present, you're standing in for the bio parent, and
Yeah.
you have to respect that person as though they are your bio parent. And but when when I'm there, or when Garrett's there, Garrett deals with his son, I deal with my children, because the way that I discipline my kids has to be a lot different than the way that he would discipline his son. And we've explained that to the kids too, where sometimes they're like, well, that's not fair. And, Lucas gets this and TJ gets this. And it's like, no, boys, you have to understand that we are all unique. We all require different things, and that's just how it is. And they've been pretty accepting. They're coming around to it. The older that they get, they understand a little bit better. But yeah, I think that that's the biggest thing too, is to just make sure that, at the end of the day, bio parents are disciplining their own kids, unless they happen to be away or at work or whatever, in which case the kids are understanding that, what my stepdad or what my stepmom says goes, because it's no different than having my bio parent there.
Right. Oh my gosh, we're so on the same page. And we actually had to learn from this, because we did in the very beginning started with, okay, these are the rules, for everyone. And then we started to realize, wait a minute, different kids are requiring different things. They're going to different houses. Sometimes there's 2 here when 2 are gone. Sometimes they're all here. And it started to get really confusing. And we had that was a learning lesson for us, where we're like, okay, we'd always been on the page of, we're going to discipline our own children. But when it came to the same rules for everyone, it was quite different. And it definitely, the other co-parents came into play as well. And then we had to have that conversation when we had the kids saying, that's not fair. How come he got to do that and she got to do that? And I had to have the conversation. Okay, guys, at the end of the day, I'm your mom, and these are the rules for you. And they might not do that. It might not be the same for them. But what's important is that this is what your consequence is. And the same was, it would be different for, Mike would tell me, hey, if she, or, if he does this or she does that, please, while I'm gone, please make sure that you implement this consequence. Okay. And it was kind of like, all right, I'll do it just because he's gone. And it was different than my kids would have. But yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because it is a big deal, and it does cause conflict, especially amongst the kids.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And I can speak from firsthand experience. I mean, sometimes I want things done a certain way. And I think in relationships, you have a partner who maybe wants something done a certain way. And what I've had to really acknowledge and look inside myself and understand is that, like Chelsea said, what works for each child is different. And I have to acknowledge that, and I can't wipe them all with the same brush. And it's that understanding of differences. And we've had a lot of conversations about this, and there's nothing wrong with it being different, but Chelsea does have a better understanding of how her boys might respond to certain things, as simple as certain words or, things that maybe I want to say, but she's like, you're just going to put gasoline on the fire. So don't even say anything at all. So there's all these learnings and this feedback, and it goes both ways. And I think it is just about, both parents being understanding of differences, because it's the differences that can really create the conflict. And that can really build up walls of resentment, defensiveness, frustration, anger. And those aren't healthy emotions. So it's really about accepting the differences and working through them as a team. And that's a concept we really, really stress with blended families that we work with.
Speaking of working with blended families, you guys have so kindly offered a free clarity call with the both of you. And I would love to let our listeners know how they can get that.
Absolutely. We love the clarity call experience. We believe in it 1000%. So just a little bit about what it is.
Yeah, so that was my next question. Let's talk about what it is.
Yes, for sure. So obviously, we want it to provide direction and vision for what you want your future to look like together. And so what it does is it helps you to create stronger unity and alignment in your relationship. So you're motivated to create your future together. So when you create this vision statement, you and your partner feel such a greater sense of team and unity. And so what your couple's clarity statement will give you is that direction and vision for what you want your future to look like. The ability to be proactive in creating your future instead of being reactive and having life happen to you, because life is always happening for us. It gives you alignment of how you both want to feel in your relationship. It gives you actions that you can both take to achieve your visions together, a way to filter opportunities that come your way. And also, I will add, like, making decisions for your family, making decisions for, finances, and being on the same page with your finances. It gives you that vision that you're both working towards together that help you to weed out the things that you need or don't need or want versus don't want. Like, it just helps with so much of that. And then it also gives you passion and momentum to create goals and grow together as a couple rather than growing apart. So it's just such an amazing experience, and it's completely free. We'd love to offer this to couples because it is just so powerful and so wonderful. And so if anybody is interested in signing up for a free couples clarity call, you can sign up on our website at transformcouples.com. We also have a link tree in our bio on our Instagram, which is transformed.couples. And it is a 1-hour call. And yeah, we would love to have you.
Oh my gosh. So we will have all of that in our show notes, links to all of that, but transformedcouples.com and Instagram transformed.couples. And you also have on your website a free guide that's available called How to Overcome 5 Challenges Blended Families Face Every Day, which is awesome.
Absolutely. And it is, it unpacks 2 other areas that we didn't talk about on here, which is intimacy and the ex, because those are 2 other areas of blended family relationship that are very present and need to be discussed, because we know from experience how challenging those elements of relationship can be. So we do encourage anyone and everyone who is trying to find a solution or an idea or even a new concept to consider, because in that guide, we do provide instructions or recommendations on what you can do to address those 5 challenges that come up on a daily basis and are a reality, but can be turned into triumphs.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. We might have to have you back on to talk about those too.
Hey, we can do that, Summer.
That would be awesome. That would be so awesome. Well, not only that, you also have some other resources that are like incredibly helpful. You have your coaching, your couples coaching that you do, and you also have a course as well, the Transform Your Relationship course.
Yeah, it's something that's really exciting. We've been working on it and still kind of putting the finishing touches on it, but it's essentially a course that walks couples through a series of questions and activities to really do a deep dive and understand each other better, but also understand the dynamics of the relationship and how you can shift some of the mindsets, some of the beliefs to become the team that you believe and want and desire. And it is a great follow-up piece to the clarity call, because it does give people in blended family relationships a deeper understanding of each other, and then an appreciation to move forward together. Something I'm sure all of us have heard at one time or another in relationship is, well, I'm just growing apart from you.
Yeah.
I can speak from experience, having talked with friends of mine who have been divorced. I asked them, well, why is this happening? And they say, well, my partner just said, like, we're growing apart. We're growing apart. And And the last thing we want is for you to grow apart. We're big believers in growth, personal growth, as well as relational growth. And Transform Your Relationship course is all about growing together. So it's a really cool opportunity. And that in addition to the couples coaching is some really powerful tools for people.
Oh, this is so awesome. And you guys are so generous too. I'm so excited that you came on today. This has been so great, so valuable. You guys are awesome. And I definitely do want to have you back because I think, talking about intimacy and that's really important. That definitely is something that can be, a struggle with all of this. So, yeah, we've got to have you back. That's
we are all
no
would
brainer.
love to come on and talk about that. It's actually one of our favorite topics.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
All right. We're doing it.
Love it.
Let's book it.
All right. You guys, thank you so much for being here. And again, it's transformedcouples.com. On Instagram, they are transformed.couples. And if you're driving and you can't go to it right now, just go to the show notes. It's right there and click on the link and you'll go right to it. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much, Summer. This was so fun.
Thank you so much for listening. And we like to say, if you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone you love and be bold enough to share it with someone you don't. See you next time.